Hello and welcome to this special presentation. As we celebrate Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversaries, there are individuals around us who are working tirelessly to spread the message of Mahatma Gandhi amongst us. One such person is Ambassador P.A.Nazareth. Mr. Nazareth served as an Indian diplomat and ambassador for over 3 decades across the world, and today he's a leading scholar on Gandhian philosophy in the world. Thank you, sir. Welcome for this special conversation. In India, every new generation grows up learning about Bapu, about Mahatma Gandhi, and they connect with Mahatma Gandhi's ideas in their own way. How did you engage with Gandhian philosophy first?
You know, the thing that struck me greatly, particularly once I reached senior levels in the Indian Foreign Service, the level of ambassador, I was so amazed to see every country I went to, at the highest level, president, prime minister, foreign minister, university president, they had such a great reverence for Gandhi. I found also leading universities studying Gandhi's political strategies, etc., etc. And then when I came back to India, I was surprised to find that even Gandhians, revered Gandhians who spent all their time living the way Gandhi had lived and they thought they should live, knew hardly anything about Gandhi's impact on the world. They knew everything about Gandhi, very little about Gandhi's impact on the world. Right. That is the time I felt I should do something to bring to the notice of my fellow countrymen what is Gandhi's impact on the world.
And as a diplomat, over the years, from your observations, how have you seen has Mahatma Gandhi represented India? You know, the name, the idea of Mahatma Gandhi, how has that represented India? And the other part of it, how has India represented Mahatma Gandhi to the world?
Well, Mahatma Gandhi has made a great impact in the world, on the world, and he has embodied the best of India from the world. That is the amazing thing. In his mind and in his soul, he had also brought in the best of every religion into his thinking. That is his amazing thing. But from what I saw, the two, I think, he grew up, in Gujarat, where he was surrounded with Jainism. When he went to London, until he went to London, he didn't know anything about the Bhagavad Gita. It's in London that he has, been introduced to the Bhagavad Gita.
For the first time.
For the first time. In fact, he says he was ashamed when he was asked and he didn't know anything about it. In London also, he has been introduced for the first time to the Bible. And I believe both of them had a very great impact on him. To me, he represents, in a very basic, essential way, a combination of the message of Lord Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita and the message of Christ from the Bible. The message of Lord Krishna is when you are faced with injustice and evil, you have no option. You have to stand up and confront it. Even if the evil and the injustice that you see is located in your own family or your own brother, you have no option. You have to stand up and confront it. But the message of Christ is that you have to do whatever you do with love. You have to love even your enemy. And it is through your suffering that you will ignite the divine spark in the other person.
Right.
So I believe the combination of these two messages makes Gandhi such a revolutionary figure.
Right, and in context of these values, there's a great deal of reverence with which India and the world looks at Mahatma Gandhi. We talk about his philosophy, his values. How relevant do you see them in the 21st century?
Very, very relevant. Because Gandhi's whole, his great contribution to the world is non-violent conflict resolution. And as our conflicts have become more and more intense, and we have armed ourselves with the most lethal weapons of unimaginable destruction, unless we can find a way of solving our problems non-violently, we will destroy this world. That is why at every stage Gandhi is becoming more and more relevant. If we are to safeguard ourselves, and it's not only a message of in the political field, but also now more and more in the environmental field. because there's so much of violence being done against the environment. That itself could destroy.
The context of environment and climate change too, where
our modes of living are such.
And so your books, and if I can show the books to our viewers, the first one, Gandhi's Outstanding Leadership. This is the first book by you, and the second one, Gandhi's The Soul Force Warrior. Second book, sir. They've received tremendous accolades across the world, from President Abdul Kalam to President Barack Obama. You've received appreciation. You've spoken about how you were moved by the respect and honor that the world has for Mahatma Gandhi. What it meant for you to reintroduce Gandhi's philosophy to the world through the means of your book?
I certainly feel very, very fulfilled. You know, when I wrote the book Gandhi's Outstanding Leadership, not in my wildest dreams did I ever expect it would make the impact that it has. It has come out in 12 Indian languages, in 23 foreign languages.
12 Indian and
23 foreign languages, including Mandarin. There was in China, there was no book on Gandhi published for 50 years. The other amazing thing is that for 12 of the European editions of this book, the foreword has been written by former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev.
Right.
Here is a person who has been brought up his entire life in the communist ideology, then writes a foreword on Gandhi.
Absolutely, and I saw the second book, the foreword is written by
His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama.
Yeah, that's also been my effort, not only to spread the message as widely as possible, but to raise it to as high a level as possible in every case.
Right, and tell us also briefly about your books, Gandhi's Outstanding Leadership, Soul Force Warrior. Help us understand how do you deal with different aspects of Mahatma Gandhi through these two books.
The Soul Force Warrior, in fact, is like a sequel to the first book. Okay. In the first book, I am sort of analyzing the various components of Gandhi's leadership, also his impact on the world. Right. In the second one, I have gone a step further to show how in a century of revolutions, the 20th century revolution of all types, all of them triggered with hate, and drenched in blood. Here comes this man making a revolution based on love. He says, having cast away the sword, there is nothing but the cup of love which I can offer to those who oppose me. So it is a revolution of love, though of course the basic thing is soul force, because he says for him truth was God. He was an Advaitin.
So you're referring to a certain spiritual power that Mahatma Gandhi also put to use in...
very much so. Yeah. And in a way, his thesis was very simple. You stand up for the truth, you are putting God on your side. Right. So you cannot lose, because God cannot lose by definition. Right. And what we call the soul in us is a power, actually the divine spark, because he was an Advaitin, and he believed that everything in this universe is a manifestation of the Mahashakti. So therefore, with this divine spark in you, if you are willing to suffer and die for your cause, you just cannot lose.
Right. You giving us a context of the 20th century where Mahatma Gandhi works and lived. In the 21st century, the translations that have happened, not just India, but outside in the world, do you see these also reflect a certain yearning that the world has for the values and the beliefs that Mahatma Gandhi represented, especially non-violence?
Yeah. An example I can give you is the following. On Monday this week, have come to India, it is the International Council of J.P. Morgan. They are the most important, very, very important people in the world. There are two former prime ministers, one of Britain, one of Australia. There is Mr. Henry Kissinger. There's a former US Secretary of Condoleezza Rice. They're all very, very important people. Can you imagine that the first event that they have made on arrival in India is to go to the Gandhi Smriti? And they asked me to come all the way from Bangalore to speak to them about Gandhi. I can't see a greater proof than this, They're the most important people in the world today, having tried all the, what shall I say, ways of, armed ways of solving the problems of the world. Now suddenly seem to have got very interested in Gandhi and are showing great reverence to him.
Right, so you've had a long career in diplomacy as a diplomat, as an ambassador. Now, you know, often critics say that when we talk about Gandhiji, we're talking about idealism. We're not talking about realistic possibilities. So in brief, sir, if you can give us help us understand the context in which Mahatma Gandhi operated and up against the mighty imperialist power, uniting the country. To what extent was he in tune with international developments and the need of the hour? So just to remove that misconception that he deals only with idealism, which has nothing to do with real action.
You know, when Gandhi came on the scene in India, 1918, he came in 1915, but really for the first 3 years he was not participating. He just wanted to learn about India because he had been out of the country for a long time. 1918, Britain was at the height of its power. Right. The Austro-Hungarian, the German Empire had, then the Third Reich had been destroyed, the Austro-Hungarian Empire had been destroyed, the Ottoman Empire had, Britain was really on top of the world. And it was a proud boast of the British that the sun never sets on the British Empire. In some ways it was a very foolish boast, but in one way it was very accurate, because the empire extended all the way from Fiji in the east to Vancouver in the west. Yes. Every hour of the day the sun was up on the British flag. This is the empire this man set out to bring down with 2 words, truth and non-violence. And can you imagine this? In 20 or 21 years, starting from 31 years, starting from 1918, the British left. And how did they leave? They left not as enemies, but as friends. And Gandhi had said, non-violent revolution is not a program for seizure of power. It's an effort to bring about a transformation of relationship. And this is what has happened, that they left as friends. The British historian Arnold Toynbee has written, Gandhi was as much a friend of India, of Britain, as he was of India, because he made it impossible for us to rule India, but he made it possible for us to leave India with dignity and without humiliation.
Right. And so if we talk about contemporary times, Prime Minister Narendra Modi puts great emphasis on Swachhata Abhiyan. He invokes Gandhiji as an inspiration. So this interesting aspect, the kind of dedication that Gandhiji had to sanitation. So there are a lot of aspects of Gandhiji which were hitherto not really known much to the people.
That is true. Gandhi is very, very wide spectrum. He covered everything. Certain cleanliness was very, very important. But his greatest emphasis was on the poorest of the poor and on human dignity. So that certainly, I think, was the highest of all his priority. And the talisman that he gave, whenever you're thinking of any important program, think of, try to recall the face of the poorest man you have seen, and then decide whether this will be to his advantage or not. So his main emphasis was on the human condition and on all living life and on the environment. Yeah, cleanliness was certainly important.
All right, we're heading for a short break in this special conversation. We'll be right back. Do stay with us. Welcome back to this special conversation with Ambassador Nazareth, a leading scholar of Gandhian philosophy. So taking forward our conversation, the new generation has come up with new terms to understand Gandhian philosophy. Gandhigiri is something that became popular lately. Do you see this need to reinvent Gandhi for the new generation?
Yes, I think so. Anything that makes Gandhi relevant to vast sections of people. I myself greatly enjoyed, continue to enjoy this particular film. It's so funny, it's so relevant in many ways. And I believe this has helped spread his message, simple message, all over among people. I'm all in favor of things like this, anything that makes Gandhi popular.
Right, and Gandhiji says, be the change that you want to see in the world. The reference to your book on leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, what values can youth, young children pick up from Mahatma Gandhi? In particular that you would?
I address a whole lot of student groups. I have a simple message to them. I said, if each of you would take one simple resolve, that you will always speak the truth, you will find you will always be on the straight and narrow, because every time you commit a sin, you have to cover it over with 100 different lies. You just take this one resolve, I will always speak the truth, and generally you will find.
Truth is one aspect of Mahatma Gandhi, non-violence is another.
That is the most important aspect of
this
him.
Active pursuit of non-violence that Mahatma Gandhi represented. How realistic and how possible do you think it is in the present times when, as you mentioned earlier, there are world leaders who measure might of the country in terms of number of nuclear weapons? In such a world, where is the space for active pursuit of non-violence?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say is Gandhi is often presented as an apostle of non-violence. Gandhi was much more an apostle of truth than of non-violence. He was willing to give up non-violence under certain circumstances, but never to give up truth. So Gandhi is always truth first and non-violence. It was the other side of the coin. Now you have seen really, even from the recent thing of the world, people have used the most dreadful weapons, all the great things that the shock and awe has become the great sort of, buzzword. With all the shock and war, the war in Iraq still hasn't ended. This has, the war in Iraq has...
That sort of violence is never a solution.
That's the whole point. The war in Iraq has lasted longer than the two world wars put together.
So is Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, that superpower was defeated. This superpower in Vietnam. The Americans, first the French were defeated, then the Americans were defeated, then the Chinese were defeated, all with, incidentally, Ho Chi Minh was a great admirer of Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah.
Right, and so finally we see a reference to Mahatma Gandhi all around us, whether some currency notes, names of roads and infrastructure.
Far too much, yeah.
Yeah, and but to what extent have we essentially embraced Mahatma Gandhi's values as Indians, and what is your hope for the future?
First, if each of us will live the way Gandhi taught us to live or wanted us to live, example is the greatest thing of all, and so much depends on parents and on teachers. Students spend so much time with teachers. One of the efforts that we make with the Sarvodaya International Trust, of which I am one of the founders and managing trustee, is to have teachers, training workshops for teachers on the inculcation of ethical leadership. So it is possible, and much depends on how much of effort we make in this matter, and how much of effort the government makes, and all public bodies, NGOs, etc. It all depends on us, and it all depends on the adults as to how much we are able to inculcate into the youth of this country.
All right. On that note, Ambassador Nazareth, many thanks for joining us for this conversation. So with that, we conclude this special presentation. News and updates continue after a short break. Namaskar.